everyone, this is Rosemary. We're here today for another wonderful conversation with Clarissa. She's going to tell me all about her story and her journey in Ghana so far. We're really excited, so stick around and hear the rest of her story. Good morning, Clarissa. How are you?
Good morning, Rose. I am doing great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I'm so excited to have met you in the group. I read your bio and I was like, wow, this sounds like an amazing woman. I have to have her on the interview and on the show to tell me all about her story. So without further ado, could you tell us a little bit about who you are and yeah, your story?
So thank you. Thanks for inviting me onto the show. It's really an honor. I'm Clarissa Akapo. Um, I was born in the UK to a Jamaican mother, and my father is half Ghanaian, half Irish. I grew up in London, and I I would say I was always a very ambitious person, and I was always wanted to explore life outside of the UK from a very young age, even though, I mean, London is a huge city where you meet people from literally everywhere in the world in London. You can taste every type of food and cuisine in London. But I wanted to go and really experience life beyond that. And with my background, I mean, my parents did, they really made an effort to make sure that we had exposure to all sides of the cultures in the household. At a younger age, I think I was 12 or 13, went to Jamaica. We went to Ireland quite often because it was closer. And also eventually went to Ghana. I think I was about 14 the first time I traveled to Ghana. So, and growing up in that way, in a very multicultural household, naturally I had a very diverse group of friends. Um, and as I got older, I really loved to travel, and I really loved to the idea of living in different parts of the world. When I was 21, I moved to the Netherlands to study, to continue my studies. So, and it was very challenging, but it was something I just embraced entirely. So that's like a bit about like my background in terms of the foundation for how I am living my life today.
Beautiful. And I really relate to a lot of the things you shared because I myself was born in Germany, raised in Belgium, and lived here most of my life. I also, even though both of my parents are Ghanaians, I always felt like there's just more to life than just living in one place. I just wanted to travel the world, which yeah,
Yes.
informed some of the decisions I made in school. And I traveled I also did my internship in Berlin at the time. And so I really relate with a lot of the things you're sharing, even though I don't have parents from different ethnic backgrounds, let's say. And I want to ask you a question that I personally, not that I hate, but people always ask, you feel more Ghanaian or more this when you have like a mixed background? Um, which, yeah, I would like to hear your answer. How do you feel? Do you feel with mixed background?
Yeah, it is one of those questions that is quite hard to answer. And I, I mean, in terms of the family that I grew up around in when I was growing up in the UK, it was mostly my mum's family. So I was surrounded by Jamaicans. I would say Jamaican culture had the biggest direct influence in my life in terms of the
Mhm.
food, the music, even the patois. Like I grew up around Jamaicans, so that had the biggest influence on me. Um, in the same way that British culture has a big influence on me because I grew up there, because that was what I was surrounded by the most. But in terms of where um, that internal pull and that desire, I wanted to come to Ghana. I wanted to connect with my Ghanaian side and get to know more about my Ghanaian culture. I think partly because I didn't grow up hugely exposed to it that much, the
Mhm.
curiosity was there. And of course, my dad is a mixed race person as well. So the Ghanaian influence in his life was somewhat diluted
Yeah.
as well. So what he could pass on also had that limitation.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think where I am now, as much, I mean, I love all parts. Like, I'm very close to family on all sides.
Mm-hmm.
But where I am now, I mean, I've chosen Ghana to live. So I do feel like I'm becoming more Ghanaian.
Yes, yes, yes. I always like to say when people ask me that I am a Afropean or like a global citizen, and that's just how I've always felt because as you say, you kind of gravitate towards where, where you had the most exposure from. And my mom is Ghanaian. She gave me, she spoke Twi at home with us and she passed the culture on, but I always grew up here. So when I turned 21, I think, or 24 is when I first went to Ghana. So at the very later stage of my life, and then decided to move to Ghana later. Also, for the same reason, because, I had it from home, but not enough. I always wondered what it would be like to move to Ghana, live there, work there, and just be submerged in the culture. And so I think, yeah, people who kind of grow up with different backgrounds or being in different places that they can call home, yeah, it makes it easier. Would you say that it was easier for you to adapt in Ghana, or how has it been since you moved there?
I think from a practical perspective, it's been easier because I have a wider family. Like my grandparents still here. I have an uncle and auntie here. I already had a place to live. So the basics were already in place. And those practical issues in terms of where to live and rent it, those, I didn't have any of those issues. Um, but I I would say I came thinking that I had, like, I knew Ghanaian culture, and I came thinking I knew a lot more. And when I was here for a few months, I was like, oh, I know absolutely nothing. You know, I really have so much to learn. So yeah, I mean, it was an awakening, really.
Yeah, Ghana is really humbling in a way. And I
Mm.
love that when you move abroad as an adult, you kind of have to reinvent yourself and rediscover yourself again. You need to make new friends and all of those things. So even when you have family around, it can still be like, oh my God, like I've been thrown to the wolves or something.
Yes, I would agree with that. Humbling is absolutely, I could summarize the experience like that. Like, yeah, it really has been a journey.
So I'd like to take you back. You explained where your kind of foundation was, in what environment you grew up. But I'd like to know more about your professional background. What did you study? Because you said you went for an internship in the Netherlands. What is your educational background, and what were you doing in the UK before you moved to Ghana?
So for my undergrad, I studied law, and my plan was to be a lawyer. And I was really interested in human rights, international law, also war crimes, which is why when I'd finished my undergraduate degree, I chose to go to the Netherlands to do my master's in the international criminal law, because the international criminal courts are there. So yeah, I spent some time there studying. I stayed on a bit longer, working as well. So that's professionally, I was in the legal profession. I didn't stay in the humanitarian law field. I actually started working in tax. So once I finished my legal qualifications, I did an international tax qualification. So I work as a tax consultant professionally.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and when you decided to move to Ghana, could you take us through? I know why, kind of a little bit, you shared a little bit about why you moved to Ghana or why you gravitated towards making Ghana your home right now, but does that have anything to do with your work, or could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was in a place in my career where I was doing very well. I'd finished my exams, I was working, I had a very stable job. And although professionally I was on a very good trajectory, I felt somehow unfulfilled in some ways. And I had other aspects of myself that I wanted to explore, my more artistic side, and also my um, business side of myself, to
Yeah.
be independent, to work for myself. And I was in a place where I was in a good place, and I'd been playing with the idea of leaving the UK and possibly moving to Ghana for quite some time, even if it was just for a year or two. It was always something that was just in the back of my mind, and I thought, when you make such decisions, I want to make the decision when I'm in a good place in my life. I don't want it to leave because I've lost my job or I can't save enough money, or I want to go when I'm in a
Strong.
from a more powerful platform. Yes. So I yeah, I reached a point where I was like, I was just playing with this idea, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go and go for a year. First, I took a sabbatical. Actually, I took a sabbatical from work for uh, about just under 3 months. And at the time, I was writing, I still do. I have all these open-ended writing projects that I can't finish, but that's another topic. So I wanted to finish writing this project that I was working on at the time. And for some of that time, I came to Ghana, and I thought, I'll just come for a year, see how it is, test the waters, see how I adjust. If I settle, then maybe I'll stay, So it was just something I was toying with. And the time that I was leaving, because I work in tax, there's like these very crucial deadlines and timings. And I said to my former employers, I said, look, I'll finish the next 3, 4 months. If you can accommodate me, I'll do it working remotely. And they were fine with that, because for various factors, it would have been quite difficult for them to replace me with someone who can just pick up where I left off at that time. So they were willing to accommodate that. They're like, okay. And I said, what, I might even be back in a year. So yeah, I mean, it I would say the decision, a big part of the decision was instinctive. I can't say there were these, like a series of very concrete, solid reasons why I left. I just had this strong instinct, and I just thought, you know what, I've been toying with this idea, and let me just go now. And this was in August 2019.
Wow. I love that. I love a lot of the things you said about making decisions from a place of power. I resonate with that a lot. And in the work that I do with my clients, I always say, when you're feeling like you want change, do that at the moment where you feel the strongest, because it's like you're more in control of the situation versus, as you said, getting fired or not having enough money or whatever it is. So I love that you're saying, I made the decision coming from a place of power and also feeling like I want more. I have this, I'm grateful, but there's just something else missing. And I'm going to go for that. And whatever that is, I'm going to first test the waters. And so you took a sabbatical. I'm currently taking a sabbatical for a year now as well. So I know the feeling, and I know also how scary it could be at that time where everything is going well. Maybe friends and family are like, are you sure you want to do this? So how was that initial reaction from your friends and family when you told them that, you know what, I'm going to Ghana?
Well, I had very, very mixed feedback, really. Um, I mean, I have one friend who still hasn't accepted that I left. Um, and I think my mom was quite apprehensive about it. My dad was like, yeah, go for it. It was really mixed reviews, and lots of people were like, well, why? And for some people just couldn't understand the decision. So like, well, you're doing so well in life, you're going to a country where there's less opportunities, where the economy is not as um commercially viable as, say, somewhere like the UK. But it's something I needed to do for myself. I also, from my experience moving to the Netherlands, I was in a very different place in my life, but it challenged me so much. I matured in a year. I mean, the growth that I experienced was just so astronomical, and I felt like I was becoming stagnant, and
Mm-hmm.
I needed that change for me, for a person, for my own personal growth as an adult, as a human being who's constantly growing and evolving. I was like, I needed this. So the conversations were hard because it was just hard to get certain people to understand why I would choose Ghana. Some people were like, well, you know, England's like literally the best place in the world. Why would you want to leave? Everyone wants to come here, which I didn't really agree with. But I was also like, I have no interest in having that argument either, you know. But I was just like, okay, that's your opinion. Um, but yeah, I had some friends who were really supportive and also excited for me as well. And you know, I find that when you have, particularly with friendships, when someone moves abroad, it really tests that friendship. Like, are we in this friendship because it's just convenient and we like going to the same places, or do we actually have a real connection? And I had seen that previously in my life, and even when I had friends who had moved abroad, some of those friendships fizzled out. Some of them are still close. Like, I have one friend, we haven't lived in the same country for over 15 years and we're so close, you know, because the connection is real.
Mm.
And I thought, well, you know what, this will test a lot of friendships. So I listened to people's concerns, but ultimately,
You had,
you have to know what you want. Yeah, you have to know what you want for your own life.
yeah, yeah. And I can totally relate because when I left for Ghana, I left in 6 weeks. So it was a bit, it seemed, I always say to people, the decisions I make to the outside world may seem impromptu, but they're not. So they've been stewing in my mind and in my heart for a long time. And then when I make the call, it's like boom, boom, boom. And people are like, oh my God, what's going on with you? But I remember I had a good job. I said to my boss, okay, this is what I want to do. There was an older lady at our company, and I said, I feel this pull to want to go to Ghana. My brother moved there, and this is a chance for me to go and work there for a year. You know, I've never had that opportunity. I think I want to go. And she's like, if not now, then when? I would go if I were you. Now that you don't have any kids, you don't have a partner, just go. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that. And so I handed in my resignations. And in 6 weeks, I packed up my stuff and left. So I know I was like, ooh, but I think, you know, as you said, friendships, people are like, oh, are you crazy? Why are you doing this? You have such a good job. You have all this going for you. Why would you move there? But ultimately, you have to make that decision, and it's difficult, but it's also very empowering to make that decision for yourself because it's your life. So tell me a little bit about how it's been in Ghana for you since you moved there.
So it's been, I would say overall, it's so hard. It's so hard to sum up. I would say it's been a positive experience in general. For me, a lot of things have fallen into place, and you know, I've spoken to some people who've had some issue. I mean, I have a good friend who has so many landlord issues and power issues and things like that. And you know, I have had quite a lot. All of my basic needs have been met. It's been difficult to get certain things done. The biggest thing was the way of interacting and communicating. Um, Even things like one day I just had a car light fixed, and then the person who I was liaising with was like, "Would just message me or call me. Oh, hi, I'm just checking on you. How are you doing?" To me, it's a very like 3 weeks later, and I'm like, okay,
What do you
why are you
want?
calling me? Yeah, it's you know because they have that more transactional kind of approach to life, especially coming from the UK, in Europe in general. Um, so yeah, and also just picking up the phone and just being like, okay, hi, I want to do this. It's like, how are you? Good morning. You know, all of that, and I'm just like, oh, it's so long-winded. So it has that. Some of those interactions have taught me to like slow my pace. Um, I mean, I have met some really good people, and when doing business and or use, hiring someone for services or, whatever the case may be, I've had, I really believe that if you approach things with a sincere and positive attitude, you will gravitate towards people who are also want to operate in the same way. And I don't focus on the negatives and the horror stories and the scams and I know they happen. I know people steal things. I know people get scammed and stuff like that, but I don't focus on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has served me well, because I have generally, of course, like in everything, I've had some disappointments, but I really believe that those disappointments could have happened anywhere. This is another thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would say overall, I mean, I've met some really nice people here. I think the challenge I've had with meeting friends who are also from the diaspora is that many of them have left. So you meet people, you start developing a nice friendship with them, and then they go. And that's been a challenge. Having that stable, those stable friends has been difficult.
Yeah.
And also as an adult, making new friends is a different ball game. So yeah, I mean, I would say I mean, I'm still here since 2019, so I guess that's like testament to something that it's working. Um, and I have had most of the problems I've had has been like with myself really, like getting motivated sometimes, getting up and doing stuff when it's really hot, and sometimes I'm holding myself back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would say the journey has been very enriching on a personal level.
Yeah. I'm so happy for you because at the end of the day, you went there for that growth, for that something else, and you've been able to get that. And I said, as you said, and it's challenging because it's taking yourself out of your comfort zone. It's communicating differently because you expect things to be the same because you know about the culture. As you said, I think earlier you said, oh, I went there thinking I know it all, like I know how things work here, I know how the people, and then you're like, okay, no, I don't know anything. And for people watching, they may be confused thinking, well, if Rose, for instance, you're a Ghanaian and you go to Ghana, what do you mean? But it's the little things, like you said, the way people communicate, it's just different. Like they say, as you said, good morning, how are you, blah, 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 before they can actually say whatever it is that they want to say. And when you're coming from the outside, you're very much bam, bam, bam. You call, excuse me, can you get this for me? And they're talking about the weather or something, probably not the weather, but something else before. And it's learning to slow your pace and know that, okay, this is how people do things here. So it really helped me as well to kind of separate myself, like this is how I used to do things and this is how things are done here, and is this good for me or am I trying to resist to change? And so I definitely also resonated with this, saying friendships, making friends in Ghana as an adult or anywhere, I think as an adult is really hard. uh, what I found about Ghana is that it could be very cliquish. Like, what school did you go to? What church do you attend? And so, if you're not part of certain circles, it's like, oh my God, I don't know what they're talking about. Do you make friends? How did you, and how do you still make friends in Ghana?
I really, I think the first few months, I was really into yoga when I came. So I did a lot of I would go to a lot of classes. I would go to activities, wellness activities, and meet people that way. I also went to events, like I would go to brunches by myself where
Yeah.
there were other people in my position, even though I am more of a introvert. I am more of a reclusive person naturally. I was like, I have to leave my comfort zone, because even if I only meet one person, that's fine. That's enough for me. Like from there you will build naturally, because I also don't like, I've noticed there's that clicky and friendship groups going on. And I'm also someone who's a very big believer in allowing friendships to grow organically. I don't like those forced friendships that I can't do it, so I put myself in positions where I'm more likely to meet like-minded people, and you'll meet people, and it's worked. I wouldn't say I'm the most proactive social person, but I have managed to make some really lovely friends since being here. Like some of them have come and gone. Some people I've reconnected with from, through like family friends, people that I kind of knew many, many years ago, and then we reconnected, and I didn't even know that this person was, just
Yeah.
forgot about them. But like we, it's been, yeah, I just think it's be a case of being proactive.
Yeah, a lot more. And I think you realize that you need to really choose your friends once you become an adult and are in a place where your friends are not just the people you went to school or work with. You just now have to think, okay, what do I like? What are the things that align with my lifestyle and personality? And who do I want to be surrounded with? And that is a big lesson that I learned in Ghana, that, oh, I get to choose the people in my environment. If I
Yeah,
don't like this vibe, I get to leave and go somewhere else. Yeah.
yeah, it's true. It's not a case of these are my friends by default because we went
Yeah.
to school together or uni or we work together. It's like, oh, I'm actually choosing these friendships. And if I don't feel comfortable with a particular person, or they're too negative, or that their lifestyles and their philosophy and their approach to life doesn't align with mine, I'm just not going to pursue it
Yeah.
as well.
That's
Because
really.
yeah, I mean, time is very precious, especially as you get older.
Mhm.
So who you give your time to becomes, there's a premium on it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I totally believe that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'd like to go a little bit into the story of how you started your company. So I know that you have a tea company that is, very loved, at least by the ladies that shared it. I checked out your pages as well. It looks amazing. Could you tell us a little bit about how that came about? Because your background, what you told me, I don't necessarily hear anything about tea right now. So tell me, where does that come from?
Okay, so I've always been a huge lover of tea, um, and not just like the typical English tea. Like I really like, I love, absolutely love green tea. And I received a lot of green tea gifts from some friends that I have who live in Taiwan. And in 2012, I went to Taiwan to visit them, and we went to a village. It was actually a village that was built by the Japanese um, during World War II. Really, really lovely place. And they had these, on the mountainside, they had these huge, elaborate, like tea rooms, tea houses. And the whole room was built to for the whole tea making process. It was just, it was so beautiful. It was actually, it was ceremonial. It's a ritual. It's a whole activity. And when we went, they were talking, people sit around, they sit, and they're like the tea, like there's a whole water filtration system, and people would talk and they would exchange and they would reason with each other, and they would like resolve issues around this. And such a peaceful ceremony. And I think then that, having that experience, and I came back with like so many rare green teas and different types of teas and tea sets and pots and all sorts, that really changed my perspective, and I fell in love with it, and I had a whole new respect. I saw tea from a different perspective. And when I was thinking quite seriously about possibly leaving the UK or starting a business, even if it was start a business in the UK, that was in 2018. I was really giving it a lot of thought. And I was like, well, if I'm going to start a business, I should do something that I already love. So that's why I chose to start a tea business. And knowing that there's so many like wonderful herbs and teas that grow on the continent, it's like, well, there's such a huge potential market here for teas that are sourced from within Africa. And even when I was looking into the tea business, I realized that most of the tea that people drink in the UK comes from Kenya. And I was like, okay, but we're in Africa, we're drinking Lipton.
Yeah.
It doesn't even taste like tea. Like, and I was really looking into it. Like, are we getting access to these wonderful high grade teas that are growing in the east of Africa, in West Africa? We're not getting them. Um, so, I spent about 6 months or so really just researching, just exploring. And when I came to Ghana, and by that point I was really into the herbal teas. So, and we have a moringa tree in the garden. I started drinking moringa almost daily. And yeah, I was as I was looking into it, I was like looking into herbs, what they do for the body, and how easily accessible they are. I mean, they have to be processed, and that is something that needs to be invested in. But I'm like, the natural resource is here.
Yeah.
So that's when the tea idea kind of evolved into okay, I'm going to focus on, I only want tea sourced, well, primarily sourced from within the continent. I do get some teas from Japan, but aside from that, I I was like, that this is where I want to build this into a viable tea business that I can sell, like, that's from the kind of everyday read that's accessible
Yeah.
at the lower end of the market, and have a higher end premium
Yeah.
version of the teas that can be sold in the international market as well. So that was the whole kind of rationale behind it.
Mhm.
And coming and sourcing hasn't been too difficult.
Mhm.
But tea is a very complex business, which is something I didn't realize. Even the size of the individual leaf when it's
Mhm.
blended is so important. The types of, not all tea bags are equal.
Yeah.
Um, so there were so many factors to consider, a lot of research, a lot of time and investment going into building it. But it is something that also during the whole pandemic, during COVID, it was actually a time when a lot of people were like, oh, I want to drink moringa, I want to drink teas that will boost my immunity. And, so people were starting to look at that a lot more.
Mhm.
So in a way, it was a good time because people were really like, oh, oh, do you have moringa tea? Or do you have this type of tea? Oh, do you have green tea? Because they were thinking about, I want to boost my immune system without relying on synthetic
Yeah.
um, immune boosters.
Yeah. So your business is set up in the UK, but you run it from Ghana, or how is it? Yeah, how are you currently doing that?
Oh, so it's entire when the initial idea was when I was still living in the UK.
Mhm.
But so I toyed with the idea of setting it up there. But when I moved to Ghana, it's purely based in Ghana.
Nice. So it's a
Yeah,
Ghanaian company.
it's a Ghanaian company. I have a workshop where I have all my stock, and I'm that's where I process and produce it and everything. So it is 100% Ghanaian.
Lovely. How many tea types do you have? And if it's too many to say, just like a couple. Moringa, I know you have.
Yes, I have a hibiscus blend. It's hibiscus, mango leaf, and ginger.
Ooh.
I um I have my green tea, and I have two types of black tea. one from Malawi, one from Tanzania. I have red bush tea
Mm-hmm.
from South Africa, and ginkgo, which is also from Japan. It's a brilliant memory booster, and it improves concentration. I'm a big fan of it. The taste is very mild, but it's really it has so many benefits. So that's the seven at the moment that are my primary
Amazing. Do
focus.
you?
Oh, yeah, and chamomile.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would love to taste your teas, and I cannot wait to come and visit the workshop as well.
That would be wonderful. Yes, I mean, and we do international delivery. We do DHL, but I think because of the unit price
Mm-hmm.
of the teas and the delivery, it's sometimes it doesn't quite,
Doesn't, yeah.
like, yeah, the delivery could be more expensive than the product. So
Yeah. Ideally,
yeah.
you'll get it with someone who's coming, or if you're getting some other stuff, then you could get it over. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and I intend to also send um, some to certain, particularly I'm going to start with the UK, and
Hmm.
as I also have a contact in the US where I can have it in a warehouse and just have it drop shipped for
Yeah.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's nice. I think that's a nice thing that a lot of companies are able to do now, so that you can
yeah.
get your products across different places at a more reasonable price. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So excited for you and so proud of you for doing this for yourself. So currently you're doing the tea business and you're still doing the taxes, or are you currently doing full time into the teas only?
I'm still doing my taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I still do that. I wouldn't say it's quite full time, but definitely every week, I still have clients, I still have projects that I'm working on.
Yeah.
And so I can dedicate a few days a week to the tea. And because my workshop is behind the house, even if someone makes an order, it won't even take half an hour of my day to send it out. So yeah, at the moment I've got a lot of stock that I'm shifting before I introduce new lines, because I do have other blends and teas
Mm-hmm.
that I intend to introduce.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it is a case of getting the marketing right, getting the packaging right, and just also working, like, I've got to a stage where I have uh, I've got a certain, like, these seven lines of tea, and I need to get those out, build the reputation of the business
Mm-hmm.
before I introduce more, make it bigger, because the bigger it gets, I'm going to need staff. I need to dedicate more time to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that will be another transition.
I love that. As a coach, most of the clients that come to me come at the idea stage, or I say at the dream stage, where it's like, oh, I really love this, but I wonder if I could turn it into something. And I really work with them to develop the idea or to grow it into a more structured business. And I would love to hear what you feel are, have been your struggles, being a side hustler, having your business and working also your full-time job. What's been difficult to deal with as an entrepreneur?
I think the first challenge that I had was the mentally making the switch from having been an employee for over 10 years to then thinking very independently. Everything is your responsibility, from the designs, and you're dealing with your graphic designer, you're dealing with couriers, your suppliers, like that. The level of responsibility and the scope of what you have to deal with is so much more diverse from being an employee. And I think from a young age, I was, quite an entrepreneurial person. Like, I was that person in school who was always selling sweets, and I was that. I was like the bum. If you wanted chewing gum, like, you would know, okay, Clarissa's probably got gum to sell. Like, I was that person. So I think I always had it in me, but entering the working world and having been an employee for so long, it shifts your focus.
Hmm.
And doing that, then you have to switch back. Like, yeah, then you have to switch into that space again, but you're still working. So you have to be in both places mentally. And that I found quite difficult.
Yeah, yeah.
Because being an employee, actually, even if you don't like your job, even if your job is hard, it's easy
You know what to
compared,
do.
yeah, compared to being a business owner. It's so much easier, and you know that you fulfill your duties and you get paid, and it's just there is a, there's a set structure in place,
Yeah.
but you're just in the open sea when you're as an entrepreneur. And yeah, that was a huge challenge. And I had dealing with tea as well. There's issues because of the type of product that it is. I had an invasion of pests.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I lost a lot of stock at one point about 2 years ago. Um, so, but that's also a learning curve.
Hmm.
Getting stuff from suppliers, I had a huge challenge. I had some tea that I was sourcing from the Congo, and that was in 2020. And at the time, DHL wasn't shipping from the Congo to Ghana. I had to get it. It was sent halfway around the world from Congo to Canada to UK. Then when I went to the UK, I bought it. I mean, it was just the costs involved in getting it and all of this. It took like more than a year, I think, to actually get that particular tea that I wanted.
Hmm.
And the seller, I mean, she's such a lovely woman as well. She's an entrepreneur. She's based in Canada. Trying to navigate this farming business, and that it was hard, but because we both have the same goal, we
Hmm.
just kind of we just went through the process.
Yeah.
Um, so there are logistical challenges. Sourcing stuff
Hmm.
is very hard to get tea from East Africa to Ghana.
Oh.
Just logistically, some of the logistic lines have not been put in place. You have to get an airline who's willing to carry stuff
Hmm.
for you,
Wow.
or because some things, it's some sellers, particularly Kenya. The tea business in Kenya is so big. It's for
Hmm.
like mass. I mean, their clients, I mean, they're supplying to some of the biggest tea companies in Europe. So the quantities that they want to sell in, I can't buy. But, I go approaching like the Rwanda market, the smaller tea farms, independent tea farms, building those relationships. It's been tricky, um getting just finding the right contact details to get into
Yeah.
touch with them, getting stuff sent to Ghana. The logistics are difficult. Getting stuff from South Africa, which is easy. I mean, it's much you can DHL stuff between South Africa and Ghana, but over certain quantities, getting them shipped
Hmm.
is very, very costly. So I think that's something, but that's like a broader issue that has been highlighted to me in this process, is that as African countries, some of the trading between countries is not well established, and
No.
that makes it quite expensive and disproportionate. And tea is a low value product.
Hmm.
It's not, so you can't sell tea for $15. Like on the most part, a few specialist ones here and there, but it has to be. There's a certain price range,
Hmm.
and yeah. So I think I've used some middlemen, people who buy stuff in bulk and then sell to
Yeah.
people like me, and then
Yeah.
finding people like that. So, I've come full circle. I have some suppliers now, um, that, we've got a good system in place, and it's affordable, and I can afford to sell at the price point that I want to sell at.
Yeah.
But it took a long time to get there.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's a learning curve, and as an employee, you never get, you never see that side of the struggle, I mean, of a business. So it's yeah, it's different and it's difficult sometimes, but you get through it and you learn and you get better at it. And on the I wouldn't say more positive note because it's still learning is positive. what has been the major highlights of your business since you started the tea business? What is like, oh my God, this is what I do it for. This is really, yeah.
I think I mean, I loved the design aspect of it. I really enjoyed creating a brand. And when people see it and they're like, wow, this is so pretty. I really love your packaging. I really like the way the story that this brand is telling through the way it's presented. Like that was just really, I really enjoy that because I didn't have, I mean, I used graphic designers, but I visually, it was something that I visualized,
Hmm.
and I was like, is this cute? Is it pretty? Is it nice? How does like sometimes when it comes from you, it's like, oh, I don't know
You don't know.
how. I think it's nice, but you don't know what the reception is going to be. The most fulfilling aspect of it is building that relationship with the customers, and also having friends who are like, oh, they really believe in it and they want to promote it, and on their page or whatever they're doing, if their business is like that, it creates a community, and you become part of that
Yeah.
community when you are also an entrepreneur. I'm sure you found, as a working in social media, you meet other people in social media. It's like, you create, like, you come together, and
Exactly.
it's really, that has been the most positive aspect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was actually going to lead me to my next question, which is how do you find a community of like-minded entrepreneurs? Because I know entrepreneurship can be very lonely and very isolating because it's like you don't know what you're doing at first. You're just like winging it and you're learning as you go. It's like, oh, I think I have to do it like that. Obviously, you get mentorship or you get courses and you get trained in how to do specific things. But some things you just have to do. And as you do it, you learn it. How has it been for you to find a community and people to ask for help? Like, okay, how did you do things like this? Or how did you get help?
To be honest, my biggest help has been Instagram. I didn't use I wasn't much of an Instagram user before I came to Ghana, but I find like everyone puts their business on Instagram. And I found so many, one of my suppliers I found on there. And we haven't actually met, but we're like, we're so close, like we feel like we're sisters. Um, yeah, it's finding, I mean, some people, it's like you have a good, like you work well with them, like the transaction goes well, and it's like it's a positive experience, but that's it. It ends where it ends. Other people, you learn from each other. I've met some people who are like particularly wholesalers who have just told me, they've just shared so much valuable information with me. Some people I've met that I've been a customer, because I'm a big user of herbs and herbal teas, and I still buy stuff from other people, and I've met so many wonderful people who have farms and shops, and who are work from home herbalists who help with, there's one in particular who she specializes in herbs for women's issues.
Oh,
And
nice.
she's a yeah, we just have such a lovely rapport, and there's so much support as well. And I've managed, there's space, there's a market for everybody. And yeah, I mean, I would say that community of people, when you meet someone you have a similar vision, and you see that, usually when I see people who are like doing really well and their business is thriving, oh no, it's inspiring, and
Yeah.
it keeps me motivated, because I have had some low points where I've just not been as proactive as other times. And something, having those relationships and meeting them, having a chat with them, that can just be the motivation to just like, you know what, i'm I'm gonna go back into this and
Yeah.
give another push out some more marketing, be more active again. And I think that's, having, even if it's just I mean, I wouldn't even say, it's probably less, between 5 and 10 people, but it's so valuable.
It is. It is. It is. Oh, I love all that you shared, and it's been really a wonderful conversation. I'd like to ask you before you wrap up, what's next for you, you think, in Ghana for your business and all the things that you're doing? What can we expect from you in the coming years?
So, and in the coming year, I have some new products that I intend to launch, doing more collaborations with other brands, and yeah, also there's a botanical business, so beauty body oils as well. So I've also got Aguma Botanics, which I've been working on formulating some fragrance, some like combinations of fragrances, um, and just beauty oils, mainly for hair and body.
Yeah.
Um, so that is in the works as well. So yeah, for the next 12 months, I want to spend most of my time in Ghana because I also have, since I've come here, I've been going to the UK for 2 or 3 months. But over the next year, I'm like mentally, I want to just stay here for the whole year. And if I go for a trip, keep it short and just really focus on pushing out the new product lines and the botanicals. So that's the plan really. That's going to be my primary focus.
Nice. Super excited for what's coming. And could you share maybe some advice or tips for anybody who's thinking about either moving to another country, whether it be Ghana or somewhere else, and also starting their business? What would you tell them that has helped you and you're like, okay, this, if I knew this before I started, would have definitely helped me?
I would say that there are a lot of aspects of the business outside of the vision that are going to be tasks that you don't really enjoy,
Mhm.
but that is just it's part of the territory. And where you can get help, if someone that you trust is offering their help, even if they just want to like it could be something Monday, it could be like if it's a physical product and you just want to be putting stickers on your pouches or whatever, and they're offering their help, take it, accept it. It's good to, because it can be overwhelming, and I think if you don't accept help, you could burn out,
Mhm.
and that can create some distance between you and your brand. So, yeah, I would say accept help and advice. And definitely when moving to a new country, I think the most important thing is to just be patient with yourself because there'll be a lot of things that you don't know, or you may make some mistakes. You're probably going to waste some money in the first few months, but just be patient with yourself because it's eventually you just wake up and you just realize that, oh, okay, I'm just part of the furniture now. I get it now. you know
Yeah.
it's easier to just live.
Household name.
um, exactly. So yeah, just being patient and kind with yourself, because it will be there. There's any change anywhere in the world is going to trigger some personal growth,
Mhm.
and I just think embracing that process. And there may be times. There was a time in my life where I felt like for 6 months I didn't do anything. I just felt like I hadn't achieved anything. I was starting to feel like a loser. But I also was like, I can't let those thoughts settle in, and just allow myself to go through this transitionary period and come out the other side more mature. And it's very necessary.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for such a lovely and warm conversation. Where can we find you? Where can we follow you? How can we buy your products? Please share it with us. I will also leave all the information in the description box below, but please share it with us here.
So the tea brand is called Aguma Tea, and that can be found on Instagram at Aguma Tea. Um, my page is Pink Avocado Cardo. If you want to follow me. And also, agumatea.com is the website for orders, international orders as well. So yeah, that's where you can find all the products. And there's lots of new products going to be posted between now and December as well. So that's something to look out for.
Amazing. And for the oil brands, it's also at the same website?
Yes, they will be on the same website. That's called, the Instagram page for that is Aguma Botanics.
Okay, great. I'm excited. I will leave
Yes.
all the details in the description box below. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story with us. I'm excited for what is to come for you in the next 6 to 1 year. Hopefully, when I'm down in Ghana, I can come visit your workshop and drink some of your amazing tea and try some of your products. So I'm super grateful for this time. Have a lovely time. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Rose.
Thank you so much for watching this interview. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit the like and subscription button if you haven't done so yet, and I'll see you next time for another interview. Bye.